So yeah, last night, I just for shits and giggles, I was curious like what my knowledge of like the Masters of the Universe franchise is. Like I've always been a mega fanboy of the 1980s cartoon show, and I love the toy lines, and I can like name all the characters, but I wasn't sure if my knowledge of the universe is all that good. Just because when we were talking about the movie, you were saying like, I'm kind of a mega fan, which I am. I would say I'm a mega fan, but I was just curious if my knowledge is up there. So yeah, I did this test online, and I got 40. What? I got 44 out of 50 questions right, and one of the questions was actually written incorrectly. So the person who wrote the trivia challenge didn't actually put the correct answer. So that was frustrating. But yeah, according to the results, it says I'm an ultra nerd. What is it? It says I took a screenshot of it. It says you scored 44 out of 50, which is 88%. This beats or equals 100% of test takers. So I guess that means I'm better than most of the people who took the test. I wonder if I'm the only person who took the test.
Right. Yeah, no, that's kind of I get those for a whole lot of like random just movie trivia things in
Yeah, yeah,
general where
yeah.
they're like, very few people
Score
guess
this
this one.
high.
Or there's also those other ones where you just it's like a checkbox, like how many of these movies have you seen?
Right.
But
Okay, so it
which
says here, it says the average score is 39 and my score was 44. But I'm ultra nerding now. My score should be 45 because the question they asked was the one that one of them that marked the test marked it wrong, but I know I got it right. Was they were asking on Etheria, which is actually She-Ra's planet, not He-Man's. They said, what is the most powerful magical place? And they listed, it's a multiple choice. And I chose Bright Moon because Bright Moon is the most powerful magical place on Etheria. The answer, they say, is Castle Grayskull, but Castle Grayskull's not on Etheria. It's in Eternia, which is He-Man's world. So that's 100% a fuck up on the person who wrote the test. So I don't know if they.
unless there's an alternate Castle Grayskull
No, there
on
isn't.
that.
There isn't.
Okay.
Like I'm an ultra nerd. Castle Grayskull is only on Eternia. They might have meant to write what is the most powerful magical place on Eternia, and then it would be Castle Grayskull. But anyways, they said Etheria is the question. They marked it my answer Bright Moon wrong, and a bunch of other people also replied with Bright Moon. And then they tell you at the end of the test, they tell you which answers you got wrong and which ones you got right. And so they
Okay.
marked Castle Grayskull as the correct answer. I'm like, fuck you, buddy. I wanted to write a comment, but as soon as I went to write a comment, they're like, you have to sign up. I'm like, oh fuck it, whatever. I'm not gonna nerd fight that. But anyways, so I feel like I actually got 45 out of 50, which puts me in a pretty high percentile if the average person gets 39. So yeah, but yeah, let's talk the movie because oh my god, I've never been so fucking depressed after being so goddamn excited for a film.
Yeah, basically, see, for me, it's surprising because it's like I feel like that you love these types of movies. To me, I'm like, it's everything that again is sort of wrong with the Marvel franchise. Although the thing I appreciate about it is that um, I got really uninterested in the Earth stuff, but I was like, at least when it's in Eternia, it really is at least visually this like other world, which is what I kind of liked about Guardians of the Galaxy and some of the
Yeah,
Marvel movies, where they were like, this is not like not even the it's like the weird zany characters have weird zany backdrops and it all fits.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
where I
No,
kind
and
of watch just oh sorry, yeah, go ahead.
no, no, no. You can keep going. You kind of watched.
Well, and like my main issues with the movie was mainly if I had to say more than anything else, it was probably just the sort of the performance and sort of depiction, the portrayal of He-Man himself, or more so Adam, I guess.
Yeah.
But even when he's He-Man, he's still basically a doofus Adam in He-Man with the He-Man look.
Yeah, and
So
that's actually my biggest fucking complaint about this. So visually, the film looked spot on. Like you could not ask for a better visual representation. Like all of the fucking
yeah,
actors looked
yeah,
great. All of the actors I
mhm,
also felt
yeah.
did a good job as their characters. Like I believed them all. It was like, oh, this is great. The performances were good. Jared Leto was Leto or Leto? Jared Leto? Jared
I
Leto.
think it's Jared Leto. Yeah.
Okay, Jared Leto was actually fantastic as Skeletor, which oh
Yeah.
my god, that
And
guy
and
deserved a
and it's
fucking break.
funny, it's because everybody and that's pretty unanimous. Like everybody on the internet, everyone doing like reviews. Because most people are kind of saying, I don't even know if like everyone's saying that it's bad, but I mean everyone's agreeing that the movie bombed. I mean, that's not really a subjective
Yeah,
take.
yeah.
But everyone's saying like everyone's kind of making the point that it's like it's bad and it's not because of Jared Leto. Like everyone's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah, yeah,
admitting that
yeah.
this is like a
He's
like
the
one
best
of the
part.
better Jared Leto things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And you
yeah.
know what? Maybe that's a sign. Maybe he started listening. Maybe he started hearing a lot of the backlash of a lot of his performances. And I don't
Yeah.
know, either he tried harder this time or just the law of averages. If you just keep doing stuff, eventually your style will,
Work.
strike gold
Well, and
and work
that's kind
occasionally.
of the
Yeah.
thing I almost think it is that like I never thought Jared Leto was a terrible actor to begin with. I didn't think he's amazing, but I thought he
Well,
was fine.
no, I sort of put Jared Leto in sort of a Keanu Reeves
Totally.
category
Yeah, yeah.
where in the right hands, like it's not I don't think he's amazing, but I think he can be directed into good performances. Like I've seen him in a number of really good movies, and he's
Yeah.
not bad. He doesn't ruin
Yeah.
those
Yeah,
movies.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, and so
but
with Skeletor, I think it just matched his campy acting style. Because, like, when you think of him in the remake of, or not the remake, this sequel of Blade Runner, like, he is also doing that kind of, like, campy, like, weird performance. And I think that just works for Skeletor, which is why it was good. But yeah, there is something about his performance as Skeletor that is great. And so, like, okay, when I first watched the movie in the theaters, the within the first 2 minutes, I already knew that I didn't like it. But I kept thinking the only thing I knew about the movie, because I went in basically blind. I saw the teaser trailer, which was the first like 30-second trailer. And then after that, I refused to watch anything else. And I also looked at the Rotten Tomato score just so I knew going in like what to expect, where to set my expectations. And when I saw that the critic review score was 66 and the audience score was like 83 or something like that, I was like, okay, I can be kind of hopeful. I don't have to think it's going to be shit from the get-go. But within the first 2 minutes, I already knew that I didn't like it, but I kept sitting there going, it's got to get better, right? Because the audience score is so high and the critic score is also fairly high. Like I figured if it's going to be a bad movie, the critic score would be in the 30s or something like that. Like Terminator Genesis, for example. I fucking love Terminator. I've seen all the Terminator movies. Terminator Genesis got like 21% on Rotten Tomato, 21 or 23. And I fucking love that movie. So I'm like, usually if the critic score is really low, like I can expect, it's not going to be the greatest film, but maybe I'll still like it as a fan. And with this one, with the critic score being like above 50, I was expecting something really good. So yeah, like for me, I was sitting there the whole time just going, oh my God, like I can see that they're trying. Like, for example, one of the first scenes you see is Man at Arms fighting Trapjaw. And it's supposed to be this introduction to him as this, like, young, powerful, captain of the king's guardsmen, and like being an ass kicking badass. And just the way I can't describe it because I'm not a director, I'm not an editor or anything, but it just felt like it was emotionally falling flat on every point. Like all of the points where they're trying to make it look like he's a badass just felt weak, and it wasn't the performance. So I don't know if you noticed that, but like in Man at Arms fighting scene, like they do this thing where he's got like this blade comes out of his wrist, and he's doing all of these like poses where they end on one of his punches or something like that, and then he does a pose and it's supposed to look intimidating and cool, and it totally flatlined for me. Did you like any of that?
Yeah. I did, but not like in so I'll put it this way. I agree with you in that it didn't carry any emotional weight. It was nothing more than like, look at the coolness. It was just
Yeah,
going on like, look at Trapjaw's arm. Look at how Trapjaw's arm is transforming. Look at how
yeah,
Man of Arm's gun just like, pops out of the side of his leg
leg,
or
yeah.
belt, and kind of like look at the little doodads where it doesn't just pop out, it kind of like connects into parts, and it's again it's the same issues that I have with many movies today where everything is just a fucking ride. It's not actually a movie where so the problem is right is that they're just see the funny thing is the way it's all designed is if anybody should have found this stuff kind of effective, it should be an Uber fan like you because
Yeah,
you don't need the backstory. You already know these
exactly.
characters.
Well,
But
and
for somebody who's kind of not familiar with the universe, you didn't get to know anything really about Man. You basically were introduced to Man of Arms like seconds earlier, and so like there's no real stakes really because you don't know. As an outsider, you don't know the world. You don't know the characters. For all you know, this could be a guy who's about to be like instantly killed. Basically,
yeah,
like it could
yeah,
be
yeah,
this could
yeah,
be
yeah.
just a badass soldier who's gonna like just die or something. And so um,
But even
my
that
thing is,
aside, like, sorry to interrupt, but even
yeah,
not knowing who the character is, for some reason, the way it was put together felt hollow and flat. Like, I can
uh,
think of the scene in Sin City where Marv is, going to get revenge against Elijah Wood's character, and like so they do the like the montage of equipping the gear, and they show like the razor wire and the big gloves, and then he does and my mitts, and like it zooms in on his
yeah.
hands, and for some reason that sort of thing, it was just composited really really well, and it totally like solidifies the emotion that he's feeling preparing to go on this mission or go to this fight. Whereas with Masters of the Universe, it was doing the same thing. It was trying to do the same thing, anyways, but all of it felt hollow and flat, and I don't understand why. Even
Well,
I think
and this
not
is
being a fanboy, I would have felt it was flat.
see, my thing is, it's I agree. Sin City is way better in that element. See, a lot of people give me a lot of shit because my my qualms with so many movies uh is that they're not rated R and would be better if they were. Now, I with He-Man, I understand why you're not going to make He-Man a rated R movie. There's
Mm,
going to be huge elements that they want to make it for kids.
yeah.
However, if He-Man just happened to have been made a rated R movie, yeah, you would not have now been able to have like shown it to kids, but it would have been your closest chance of getting like an just an overall better movie.
Mm,
And I feel that same way with the Marvel movies, where again it wouldn't really be appropriate, and it depends on the characters. I really don't think Spider-Man services well as a rated R movie because the
yeah.
comics are not a rated R thing. I don't think anything really about that would be. I just I don't know. Yeah, seeing Spider-Man kill people gorily or something
Mm.
is not my thing. But like, I think we all kind of recognized early on that something like Wolverine or even just X-Men in general
Yeah, yeah,
could
yeah.
actually work really well in a
Yeah,
rated R
yeah.
element, and a lot of movies just could. Um, again, that's part of the reason why people were so happy with the Christopher Nolan movies, which, to be honest, I don't even know if the Christopher Nolan movies are rated R. They might just be really dark and bleak, but I don't know if they necessarily
Wait,
did anything
what
that
Chris Nolan movies?
the Batman, his Batman
Oh, no,
trilogy.
they're
Like, I
not.
don't really
Yeah,
think that because
they're not
there's not
R-rated.
really anything. No, no, but
I
there
don't, I
are
don't
like
know.
but there is like intensity in them, I guess,
Yeah,
is the
I
point.
get
Like,
what you're
there's
trying to say. I don't think it needs an R rating, but you need to feel like you can just you need to feel like you're not being held down by the rating. You need to feel like, oh, we can just do whatever we want and make a good fucking film rather than worrying, oh shit, is this gonna, push us into R-rated territory and then we can't do it or it has to be cut.
yeah.
So I can kind of understand that. But yeah,
The thing about the whole the hollow fight sequence again, it's I blame Disney. More importantly, I blame the Marvel movies, and you know what? You see it in the Star Wars movies too. Like all of these newer movies, it's like, look at all of this dazzling stuff, and you're like, why is it that I don't feel anything? I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
care. And like it's almost like if there's it's like they kind of saved the real crazy fight scenes in the Marvel stuff really for Infinity Wars and Endgame. And
Yeah,
even in those movies, I was still kind of not impressed because I just kind of felt like it took this long. Like I should have been
right.
seeing stuff like this movies and movies ago.
Mm.
Um, but at least
Yes.
it was like kind of yeah. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
No, sorry. I feel like we're kind of like getting off topic, so I was just going to try and bring it back to the film we've been talking about. But yeah, I understand that like it seems like there's something missing. It's hard to try and put your finger on exactly what is causing it for sure. But yeah, as a fan, like it immediately felt hollow within the first couple of minutes, and then, I just kept waiting for it to get better because I was like, okay, well, the audience says it's great, and they're the only people going in the opening weekend are gonna be the diehard fans like me, so it's got to be doing something for them. And yeah, it was just so shocking that it never came. And what's worse is like I actually walked out of the theater because I was so fucking upset. I was like, this is not amounting to anything. And like, one of the things that I loved was the fact that they didn't dwell on Earth for too long. Maybe they spent 20 minutes on Earth, but then as soon as I realized that, it's like, what the fuck was the point of him even going there? Like they start the movie with Adam as a young boy, and you know, basically he's getting bullied by everyone around him, and he's a weakling and blah. And so they're trying to like emphasize, oh, power is really important to the people of this world, strength and power and courage. And it's like, okay, I get that, but was that necessary? And then like the whole idea that Skeletor is coming to steal the sword of power that's just hanging out in Castle Grayskull waiting for somebody to take it up. And so the sorceress chooses Adam and then sends him to Earth, and it gets pulled out of his hands when he's traveling to Earth. It's like all of that, and then the fact that they don't show him becoming a better person, working hard to become a strong man or anything like that. It's just like he's just suddenly they jump cut to 15 years later, and he's a crazy person telling this story to somebody that he's just met and he's going on a date with. It's just setting up this like campy. He's a buffoon. Um, he's not socially ept. I don't know what you would call it. He doesn't have any social skills. He's socially awkward. He's just this dweeb. And then like Tila shows up and saves him and brings him back to Eternia, and then he he's reunited with the sword and he transforms into He-Man, and they do this whole sequence where they're showing him get buff, and it's like, what, he already is buff. This doesn't make sense. Like, they made his arms look smaller only to blow them up and make them look larger again afterwards. And it's like, that didn't make sense. But
well, it's also why the whole like doofusy character in general, like when he's at work, he's just kind of like, oh, like I'm this like kind of your regular, just kind of like your regular Joe kind of dude who's just kind of falling asleep and woe's me.
Focused
like,
only on the sword.
You're like an alpha Chad in every way. And we're just kind of pretending. Again, it's what I kept saying was they tried to make him fucking not even Peter Parker, like actually like cringier.
So my analogy, actually, after the movie, it took me a while to articulate like what I didn't like about it. I just knew that I hated it.
I hate to say it, man. This episode's gonna be completely unreleasable. The glitching, it's like once a minute, and it's getting like the garbles are getting longer each time, and
lovely.
Nobody will.
All right. Well, do you want to just stop?
I mean, we can keep recording it for our own for our own records. But I'm just saying, like,
maybe it's not going to be as shit. Maybe it's not going to be as shit as you think. I don't know, but
well, I'm just hoping that maybe it's not picking up the garbles, but it is like it's a lot. Yeah.
Well, boo. So the analogy that I came up with after I left the theater is, so if you look at Clark Kent and Superman, Clark Kent is a clumsy, bumbling idiot. And that persona is there to mask the fact that he's actually Superman, who's this godlike, super powerful being. Adam, they did the same thing with Adam, except they made Clark Kent his main persona. And it stays Clark Kent even after he transforms into He-Man. So like, I was actually, after I got home from the movie, I actually like wrote a post on Reddit, and I was asking, the Masters of the Universe community, like, am I crazy? Or do some of the rest of you actually not like this film? And, but that was the thing that I realized is they made him a bumbling idiot the entire time. So being He-Man, he's not actually He-Man. I was actually writing out like a review afterwards, and I was like, I've been calling him Adam for the entirety of this review, and I'm doing that on purpose because I don't feel like he ever becomes He-Man. He's just a more powerful version of the bumbling idiot persona.
To be fair, like, obviously the movie was designed to at least be a trilogy, and of all of the movies, this would have been the movie where he would be the most Adam, while in the other movies, you might have gotten very little Adam, if not a majority of He-Man at that point. But, like, I don't want to quite say the elephant in the room yet. I mean, I'll go into it eventually. I want to see if you can get there. But, like, again, why do you think, because if you actually think about it, most of the other characters, I mean, I could be wrong. I'm trying to like think of that in my head. Other than the fact that there's like bad writing and like pacing is like awkward and stuff like that, most of the characters aren't too far off from what they're supposed to be. What they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Except for the main fucking character, and like. If you have any more theories behind why they did this, I mean, I'll break into mine.
Yeah.
But, well, when you hear my theory, you're not gonna like you're gonna be like, yep. But sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No. So just so for me, it was just the realization that they just made him this bumbling idiot the entire time, and he's Adam the entire time. And like some of the other things I'm thinking about. So again, not being the major He-Man fan that I am, like maybe you don't know this, but when he's He-Man, he's supposed to be invincible. He's called the most powerful man in the universe. He's supposed to be stronger than Superman. You don't see Superman flinching and going, ow, when he gets shot by a bullet, right? And they do these
Well,
scenes where his first fight against Trapjaw, he like punches Trapjaw's metal fist and then winces and goes, ow! And then later, he's like, Tila is asking him to help, and he has to lift up this, entire ship or whatever, and he lifts it up like one-handed, but then he's like, can you hurry up? This is really heavy. And it's like, no, that doesn't exist. He's not struggling. He's got all the fucking power in the universe. This is like a piece of cake for him. He shouldn't be going ow when he punches something. He shouldn't be like, oh, this is heavy while he's holding it. So yeah, it's freaking nuts.
Is, though,
why?
The question is why?
I can't understand it. I cannot fathom it.
Well, okay. Because here's the thing is, I'm going to tell you now.
Sure.
And I'm not going to just say it, like, we'll talk about this, and I'll bring up a million reasons why. What I kind of might love the most about this He-Man movie is this might be the final, like, nail in the coffin that will finally get you to agree with something that I have been saying for ages.
Which is?
Well, you always complain about my complaint about movies today is that they're ruined because they're all woke. And you're always like, no, well, this is exactly the perfect example. And not only of He-Man, what they've been doing with all of these movies, but He-Man is the perfect example because it's called He-Man, where he represents the most powerful man in the universe who has the
still
power.
A fucking
and
pansy.
Hollywood cannot
has no power.
adapt that story and make that character. Tell me this. Who is the weakest female represented character? If any, it could be the tiniest character.
Yeah.
Name one weak character in the He-Man movie that we watched. There isn't one.
The only one that's weak is He-Man, Adam.
Not even the fucking girl on Earth where he's on a date with. Even she is stronger than He-Man.
Of course,
The whole movie is about saying "fuck you" to essentially strong males, patriarchy, man in general. Again, even compare, although they did a much better job with Skeletor, even if you compare Skeletor with Evil Lyn, Evil Lyn is the intelligent sidekick
he's
to
the more
of Skeletor.
He's the more physically powerful one, though. He does in multiple different scenes physically dominate her. But
I wanted to ask you about this too. You would know better than I would. Is this canon? The fact that Skeletor can't touch you without like burning you?
No, they made that up for the
that's
movie.
A movie thing. Okay, I was just curious about that.
No. That's just supposed to be him like exerting his magical powers over her. No, that was weird, but whatever. No, and to be clear, I wouldn't argue that they're not wokeifying movies in Hollywood. I just don't give a shit. It doesn't really bother me most of the time when they wokeify something. I don't mind gender swapping or race swapping or whatever. It doesn't bother me that much. I'm okay with watching woke movies. But under certain contexts, like this movie, or if, for example, you were doing Superman, like that's actually an interesting thing too, because I watched the James Gunn Superman movie, and I initially liked it, but then I was watching a YouTuber that I really enjoy, and she was pointing out that he just gets his ass kicked the entire film. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's really strange for Superman to be the weakest character. So I would definitely say, there's some absolute truth to that.
It's a trend that that you definitely see it in the Star Wars movies. I would say maybe actually more so than the Marvel films. It's because it's almost like the Marvel films as a franchise kind of almost birthed itself just kind of before all of this stuff happened.
Well, but then the more recent Marvel films, they've been replacing all of the main characters with female versions of them. So But it's almost like Endgame really was the Endgame, because just by the default, they were like, well, we just planned this thing so early on, we're not gonna
completely deflect, but
Yeah, everything
like
after that has been certainly downplaying the male
yeah,
machismo. Yeah. Well,
um,
I mean, so yeah, there's just so many things with the film. Another thing, I was watching another YouTube channel, and they pointed out, and it was really interesting because again, I was picking up on this, but I couldn't articulate it. The entire movie, I just kind of sat there stunned, and I was like, why does this all feel so wrong? But something they pointed out is that this universe seems like it's brand new, like it just was created for this movie, in the sense that none of the fucking characters know each other. It's like they set up the opening of the movie is King Randor is the king of Eternos, the palace, and Skeletor is coming in and attacking it. And it's like, oh shit, Man-at-Arms is like, okay, sire, don't worry, I'll protect you and your wife and your son. Just follow me and we'll get you to safety. And so there, you know, he's got Prince Adam and King Randor and Queen Marlena and his daughter Tila, and he's kind of trying to usher them away from the bad guys. And yet, after He-Man gets sent to Earth and disappears for 15 years, they even show like Fisto and Ram Man and Mechanic all fighting in that opening sequence with the king, so you can assume they know who the fucking king is. They're king's men, right? They're the most powerful warriors in Eternia. And yet when Adam comes back, they make a joke scene where they, yay, Alan! No, it's Adam. How the fuck would you not know the name of the king's son? Even if you don't know him 15 years later, you don't recognize him, you still know who the fucking king's son is.
Exactly.
You know his name. They don't seem to know each other either. Like Adam's making up. Adam doesn't know any of them by name. How? How would he not know the hero? It's like everybody knows King Arthur and Lancelot and all of the Knights of the Round Table. If you live in this world as a young boy, you're telling me that you don't know the name of any of your fucking heroes, Ram Man, Fisto, and Mechanic? So you have to come up with these stupid childlike names. Like they had this disrespect for the universe and the established lore that just bordered on insane.
That's what I mean. It's like they were essentially embarrassed
to be making this movie
by the material. Yeah. But again, it really just shows how much we've changed from just as a society and our look at things from comparing it from like 1980. Our view of masculinity, how much that has changed from 1982 to now. Because in some ways, it's like, even though it was too obscure to be the poster child for toxic masculinity, but in many ways He-Man represents so many things that
people would point to as toxic masculinity. Absolutely.
Even just from the physique, just even the fact that the characters are all super muscular, and it's all just kind of like brute force.
And you couldn't think about, oh, maybe it's just because it's fantasy. It's supposed to be like all the women are uber sexy, all the men are uber buff. Yeah, that's because that's something to aspire to. It doesn't have to be, regular Joe Blow characters, because it's supposed to be like a power fantasy. Yeah, I know.
And there's an intelligent way where like you can even have your cake and eat it too. Like there is, like in the multiverse of possibilities, there is a way you could actually do a really like sophisticated He-Man movie that is also at times fun and campy, and that also at times is self-aware and can even poke fun at a degree of toxic masculinity. And just like I always felt that somewhere out there you could write like the best Oscar-winning movie of the year that's about like sourdough bread, but it wouldn't really be about sourdough bread. It would be about character relationships, and you can use metaphors with bread. But if you work just really, really hard, or maybe like AI,
a good writer could do it.
Like a good writer could do justice to almost any material, and like it when you see it. Like when you first see a really good movie, first hit you emotionally. You're like, everything just worked, and then later you dissect what was
Well,
done that was the right tone. And that's not sometimes the thing is getting the tone. Like Lord of the Rings is another good example of something that isn't rated R, but almost feels rated R because of how much time they took into it and getting the tones just
yeah,
right,
yeah,
but
yeah.
without having to have nudity or gore
Well, and
or F-bombs.
having reverence for the original material is the thing. Like that's another
Yeah.
thing that somebody else pointed out was in the opening, like He-Man's describing to his date. We don't know it's to his date, but he's narrating and talking about the Sword of Power, and then he's mocking the fact that it's called the Sword of Power. It's like, yeah, I know they named it that, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
You wouldn't see that in the Lord of the Rings. You wouldn't be
No,
like,
but see,
oh, and they called it the One Ring. How lame!
and
Like,
this is the problem is they're not actually writing for the characters. They're tell they're turning the characters into mouthpieces for what the
for the
writers
audience should
feel.
feel.
No,
Yes.
not
Well,
even
that
that. The
too.
writers are like, God, this
Yeah,
stupid.
but
I don't know. I
also
can't
like
take it seriously, so I have to make it a.
also
Yeah,
trying to then hoist that idea onto foist then trying to make the audience feel the
yeah,
same way about the characters. Oh, you should take these characters as just a joke. You
yeah.
shouldn't take them seriously because we're not. And it's so fucking insulting. And that's the thing is like you were saying, you when you watch a good movie, you don't really understand what makes it good, but you can feel it. You know it in your bones. It's the same thing with the bad movie because I sat there for the entire fucking film going, why is this so bad? And I couldn't understand it. And at the end of it, like, Chris and Chris were both saying they really enjoyed it. And I'm like, the mind blown because my buddy Chris is a He-Man fan, the same as I am. He grew up watching the show and he really liked it. So I'm like, how the fuck could you be okay with this film? And he was like, oh, it's just my expectation. I didn't have any expectation and blah. And I was trying to articulate, I'm like, I didn't have any expectation either. I went in knowing nothing about this movie. So by default, I have no expectation, but I do have a reverence for the story and what's already been established. And I care deeply about the universe and the characters. And I just knew that these writers weren't. And that's why it was like offensive to me. I was just like, I can't understand how Travis Knight, who claims to be a fan of this series, how he could allow people to write the characters in this way. It's like, what the actual fuck? So yeah, that
I
was
just think
mind blowing.
I just think we have like a new generation of people who are not only like woke and with an agenda to like ruin with these things, but also like even if they weren't woke, I think they also just don't understand. I just don't think they're trained. Like I don't think they are like literate in what good writing and storytelling is. And then on top of it, they throw these like kind of ideological rules that
Yeah,
just make it even worse. But like it would be like like the way I feel would have been the perfect way to do it is something that is a little bit hard to explain to people because it is a bit of a meta concept where I do think that He-Man should sort of be a campy thing that doesn't take itself seriously, but the
yeah.
most effective way to make it campy is to actually do it ultra seriously. And because everything is so ridiculous, the fact that you
That's
took it
what makes it
seriously,
camp. Yeah.
that's what would make it campy, is
Yeah,
the fact
yeah,
that it's
yeah.
not Lord of the Rings. It's this
Yes.
bizarre
Yeah, yeah.
homoerotic thing. I also think there should have been more homoeroticism of all for all
Yeah.
of these movies. That's what's so weird is all these other movies that it's inappropriate to like insert a lot of LGBTQ things. I'm like, no,
This
He-Man
one
should
is
have
totally
been
appropriate.
very
Yeah, yeah,
undertoned in a gay way,
yeah.
and that would have also added to the camp, but
Yeah.
also making it like in a serious way. And that's the thing is it's like if you make these things serious, that's where you get the camp. Once you start like breaking the fourth wall and being like winking at the camera and like being so like overly self-aware, then you just like
And
I don't know, it gets really
disrespectful too,
yeah,
like
yeah,
disrespectful to the
exactly.
established story. That's so something else that I was realizing, and I think you were kind of hinting at this, is that there's a lack of nuance today that I'm not
Oh yeah.
sure if it's
Yeah.
just the age of like people, like when you grow up, and I don't know how old these writers were, but like it seems to me that there's like a social ineptitude that if you're not interacting with people in a variety of social situations, you don't comprehend nuance. There was one of
Yeah.
so when I posted on Reddit and I was asking people's opinions, one of the thing that I did is I opened by saying what I liked about the film. I said visually it was stunning. All of the actors were cast perfectly. They all had great performances, but I freaking loathe this movie. And then I list all of the reasons why I didn't like the film. And one of the guy's comments was, "You say that you love the actors and visually it was stunning, but you hate the movie? What the fuck?" And I'm like, clearly you don't understand.
It's called writing.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
called,
like, clearly you don't understand nuance, that I can actually praise some elements of the film and still hate it overall. The other thing was I actually mentioned
Because you said you started it with the things you liked, but I'm sure you then followed up with the things you
all
didn't
of the
like.
things that I didn't like an essay
Okay, so then it's
worth.
all there. It's like you.
I know.
Then, yeah,
and
he's just an idiot.
he just
yeah.
brushed over it, and
He probably stopped reading it. He
there
just
was
like read
there
the
was
beginning and
another
commented,
there was
yeah.
another person though that like because in my detail I said I was so disappointed that I actually walked out of the theater, and then I realized, oh shit, there's still more than half an hour left. Okay,
wait,
I guess I'm gonna go back.
What was the part? Like, what was the the
so
clincher that got you leaving?
it was so I didn't leave because of a particular scene. I left
Yeah.
because we were an hour and a half into the film, and I was like, it's not going to get any better. I finally clicked that, oh, like I've been waiting. I've been waiting in every single scene. I keep waiting for the good stuff to start because of my knowledge of the reviews being so high. I was like, it's got to get better. So I just kept holding out until it got better. And then at an hour and a half in, they're doing this scene where they're like, He-Man's like, they're in a ship. Man-at-Arms and Tila and He-Man and Roboto, they're all in a ship and they're being chased by villains. And then He-Man like jumps out and face plants on the windshield of one of the villains and then kind of goes, duh, oh, it's a villain, and like breaks the window, throws him out and takes control of the ship. And then Man-at-Arms is like pointing at him and waving his hands and going, look out behind you. And he's like, duh, I'm gonna wave at you because that must be what he's doing. He's waving at me. Like this, oh my God, the stupidity. I feel like the writers were also just making fun of bodybuilders the entire time too. It's like a whole bunch of nerds and they're like, this is my moment to make fun of bodybuilders everywhere.
That's what I mean about the toxic masculinity and all of that
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
stuff, right?
yeah.
Like everything about what He-Man is was like made by people who scoff and like
Mock.
like laugh and
Yeah.
and it's like dude, like this is, it's like they were trying to be like Marvel. It's like this is technically like made by Mattel.
Yeah.
Why are you fucking up your own product?
IP? I know. Well, and that's where I actually
like, that is not what they did with Barbie. Like they would
I don't think
poke
Mattel
fun.
actually has I don't think Mattel has a studio division. If they do, they should
No,
fire
no.
whoever's in charge. I think honestly, because
But
the
I'm sure
He-Man movie
there must have been some. I'm sure they had to have some sort of level of approval, I'm
oversight,
sure.
yeah, maybe. I don't think they did though, because again, this like the He-Man movie has been trying to be made for the last 20 years. It started with Sony buying the rights,
and then the other crazy thing is, it's how is it that a script that went through these many rewrites,
yeah,
and then we got to this conclusion, which is again why, like, when you go through that many rewrites, it probably becomes like a Frankenscript.
Of
where they're
course.
like, we're going to take a little bit of everything,
Yeah.
and that's why everything's uneven.
No, they should have thrown it out. I actually, so literally, Sony started trying to make a He-Man movie, and it was in the early, like mid 2000s, I guess, like 2010s or 2015 or something like that. And then, so that's when I started to hear this idea that He-Man was going to be on Earth and blah, blah, blah. And as a fan, I was like, what the fuck? He-Man does not go to Earth. He does not need to do that. That's why everybody hated the 1987 movie. Don't fucking do that. And then Sony decided they weren't going to go anywhere with it. So they sold the rights to Netflix. And Netflix intelligently, I might add, we're like, okay, we want to make He-Man a little bit more relevant again. So rather than going directly into the live action movie, we're going to actually make a continuation of the He-Man cartoon show. And so they got Kevin Smith, who, again, Kevin Smith is actually a fucking He-Man mega fan and actually understood and revered the universe. And yet everybody collectively lost their fucking minds over his take on the cartoon.
No, I actually get it. Like, to be honest,
No,
Kevin Smith's
sure,
Kevin Smith's
whatever.
also been accused of being very woke,
And that's
kind of like
fine.
from the beginning.
My point was just to say, okay, so then Netflix went, oh fuck, we're not going to do a live action movie if this is what everybody's reaction to our cartoon was. So then they sold it to Amazon MGM, and you're still hearing that He-Man's gonna go to fucking Earth. So it's like they literally had the original script from Sony, got passed to Netflix, and then got passed to Amazon MGM. I honestly think they just bought it as one entire package, and they went, fuck it, you know, the writing, there's already been a treatment done on the script, let's not throw it out, let's just go from there, because we're putting a lot of money into this. And I think that was their biggest mistake, is that they held on to that, or parts of that original script, which was a terrible idea. But that's what gives me the belief, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, I don't have any insider knowledge, but that's what makes me think that Mattel, they don't give a fuck. They just sold the rights to Sony, and they don't have any say anymore, and it's just the shuffle between the movie studios. And Mattel goes, yeah, okay, we can sign off on this. But I think there was probably something in their agreement where Mattel actually stays hands off, because Mattel's a toy company. They don't have...
Would probably happen, if there's anything that they're very particular with, that's the thing. It would be when they just sign off at the very beginning. They would just sort of be like, we're selling off, but, you know, you can't... like we just, you know, we've got these, like, you know, few kind of like rules, but other than that, you do whatever you want. But I think they get that stuff out right at the beginning.
Exactly. And as long as you're not like going too crazy with the characters, then as long as you're following specific guidelines, then that's probably all the input they have. And again, they're a toy company. All they care about is the movie comes out, now we can make a whole new line of toys and we can sell the shit out of these new toys. That's their bottom line.
The toys might actually end up even though the movie bombed, the toys actually might end up being more successful than
I mean,
than the movie stuff.
Maybe, but
what's weird is it's like we now have like two fucking He-Man movies that, in my opinion, were both like failures that were both very close to being great movies, which is what's so frustrating.
Yeah.
And the problem is that like the 80s one failed in a completely different way than the new one. Like I want to talk about the old one for a second, because I think it helps with the overall theme about how the times have changed, and because the old one is the best representation of what the world was like in the time when He-Man was still relevant. That 80s movie. What was the problem with that is, I don't know how much you know about the story behind the 80s movie or the studio. So Canon Films was this kind of like indie studio in the 80s that made these very like low budget exploitation movies. And Canon was their big shot. They made two movies where they were like, we actually want to try to make movies almost on the level of a big studio movies. And the two movies were basically Superman 4 and Masters of the Universe. Right. And both of these movies basically sunk Canon Films. Like they bankrupted them.
I know, because I remember hearing that while filming, they actually weren't able to finish the movie Masters of the Universe in 87. And they had to, like, Canon had canceled the funding, and they were like, okay, well, what can we do with just a tiny little bit of extra money that we have? Because the guy was like, I really want to fucking finish this film. And so they had to completely rework the ending of that movie too, because suddenly all of their funding was pulled.
Well, not only that, I don't know too much about that end, but one thing I really got to give kudos to the director of the 80s movie is that the original plan, like this is like how fucking like shystery the Canon Films people were, was they wanted to do a big budget movie, and they obviously wanted to cash in on the He-Man craze. And I think they just somehow worked out a deal and got to it before the other studios who are probably like, fuck this toy, we're not gonna make toy movies.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
but originally they were like, no, like He-Man and his gang, they just immediately just get plopped into Earth. They
Yeah.
didn't want, and it was the director who was like, please, no, we have to do at least a little bit in Eternia. If it
Right.
wasn't up to the director, there
Yeah.
would have been none of Eternia. And the Eternia stuff is by far the best shit. And the thing that I'll actually give the 80s movie is tonally, like, had they just kept it all in Eternia, that was the biggest qualm, is that they just had to make it all on fucking Earth. But if they had just
Yeah.
kept the movie in Eternia, I think that 80s movie could have been, because again, they were at least sort of, they treated it a little bit seriously.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
again, the tone was there. There wasn't all this like political agenda to try to make like Dolph Lundgren like a bitch. And this movie went the other way. They're like, nope, we're going to do tons of Eternia. They didn't fully learn their lesson because they're like, we got
Yeah.
to do a little bit of
But we're
Earth.
just gonna trash He-Man as the character and make him into this
Yeah.
buffoon, totally, useless
Yeah.
guy, and
They
everybody
basically-
hates
You know what they
him.
did was they turned they turned Adam into and I hate the fact that I'm gonna get the name wrong, but like the cat, like Granger or
Cringer, because
Yeah, yeah.
he's cringing at the scary things. He cringes
Yeah,
at the scary
yeah.
things.
No, Adam is way cringier than
Yeah.
the cat is.
Yeah. No, I know.
Fuck.
Oh my God, there's so many things they did wrong with this movie as a
Well,
fan.
you know what they should have done, and this was, I think, one of the problems was, like, you could tell, like, they had a brief period of happy Eternia, and then very quickly Skeletor's people, like, come in, because they're like, we need to have that action, like, they were like, there's like that nervousness of, like, we need action soon, but you know what they really should have done is they should have, I think what actually could have really have worked, there would have obviously have still been the derpiness, but it maybe would have been more stretched out, is it really should have been like an 8-part Netflix miniseries where you could have
Well,
just...
and that's, I think, what they originally planned. They didn't plan on
Yeah.
making it into a live action film because, you
Yeah.
don't have enough time. But even that, like, I think in a 2-hour movie, you could have done an interesting story to kind of
Yeah.
set up the characters. But for whatever reason, they felt like they needed to make it completely fresh so that anybody coming into this would just, have all of the characters like laid out for them in the derpiest way. And it's like, no, that's what makes a movie bad. What makes a movie good is you don't explain anything. You make it feel like you're all, like, these characters are in their, mid-20s living in this world, and it's a lived-in place and a real place, and you don't need to explain any of it because you can kind of get a sense of the characters throughout the film rather than knowing everything about them. And for whatever reason, like, that's the one thing that YouTube channel that I was watching was saying, is it just feels like they made this completely from scratch just so that the audience could understand it. It's like, but it just makes it the dumbest incarnation possible of the story.
To me, it's almost more like, again, it's not that it's bad, it's just pure mediocrity. Like, something like the Joker sequel, like, took such a large swing that it's bad. Like, it's worse than He-Man, but it's so bad that it actually falls into a category of being at least somewhat interesting.
Right.
Like, it's an
I didn't watch it.
interesting
I didn't watch it just because of how much I heard.
Bad, but it's so bad that it almost goes into some weird postmodern
Like The
thing.
Room
Well,
territory.
But with He-Man, when I watch these movies that are mediocre, it's like I have a mental checklist where I'm just constantly seeing something where I'm like checking, like, that was bad. Oh, well, that was kind of okay. Oh, but that was bad. Well, that was kind of good. And I'm like going back and forth where I'm just sort of like, what is this movie? Is it good or is it bad? And by the time the movie's over, I'm just like, yeah, it just had all of these it was just a series of small bad choices that could have been corrected. It's kind of like when you watch a DVD and you're seeing like alternate scenes and you're like, oh yeah, I get why they didn't do that in the
this
movie.
one. Yeah.
But instead, they're all in the He-Man movie. Like, there was just tons of sloppy things where I was, more than anything, I was just confused. I'm like, what's even going on right now?
Totally.
Like, there's a part where out of nowhere, like, all this stuff is happening, and then out of like nowhere, He-Man's roommate appears in Eternia.
Totally. He was just there to prove to him.
And I literally couldn't tell if I was watching a hallucination.
I know.
Like, is he hallucinating? Is it a dream sequence?
Yeah.
Did they actually grab the roommate and bring him into Eternia?
He's just there. They don't show you bringing him there.
Yeah. Editing.
He's just there at the end.
There's not even like a 4-second sequence of this guy's teleporting in. And it was just things like, there was a number of things like that where I'm like, this is
felt
just
so out of place,
sloppy and confusing, where I'm like, you could have just cut that whole thing out.
Yeah,
and
it wasn't necessary. Well, and then, so going back to, like, you were asking, why did I leave the theater? And it wasn't one scene that made me walk out. It was just the overall realization, realization that this isn't getting any better. And so oddly enough, the part that I left at, I ended up watching it again afterwards, but the part that I left at was the best part of the movie. I mean, whatever. Not to say that the best part of the movie was fantastic or anything. It was just He-Man kicking ass. But, like, so I left, and then I realized, okay, there's still more than half an hour left because I Googled what the runtime is. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be bored just, hanging out outside the theater waiting for all my friends. So fuck it, I'll go back in and I'll watch it. So I only missed somewhere around 15 minutes of the movie. But the part that I came back in is when He-Man's already been converted back into Adam, and he's thrown into the prison cell with everybody, and then they're doing the whole, like, oh, we need to work together as a team, and it's like, you mean they've never worked together as a team before? Adam needs to teach them this from his HR department skill set, because, they're only soldiers who have all been working together without Adam beforehand. Like, it's so fucking ridiculous. And there's just, like, so many elements of the movie that I was trying to say, okay, am I hating this because I'm a fanboy? Or am I hating this just because it's a terrible movie on its own? And it's like, no, it's really a bad movie on its own. And that's the part that was mind-blowing me. Like, when I was on Reddit and I was trying to see if other people hated this movie, and the vast majority of people in the He-Man Masters of the Universe subreddit actually like the film, and I'm trying to wrap my head around how the fuck they could, like, even not as a fanboy.
They're liking it on they're liking it on superficial levels.
Yeah, they like it because of
to talk to people about why they do or don't like something, because that's really where it all comes out. Well, because you can like anything if you go for, like, like someone could enjoy being eaten by a lion if they're like, yeah, but what I enjoy about it is I'm nurturing and feeding an animal that I love, which is a big feline. I get to pet its fur right before I die. And
I don't like the dying part and the pain and the
that's not the reasons I choose to die. I choose to die to sacrifice myself to a furry creature I love.
Totally. When I was
but the thing is my main point is, I guess, is the reason why, though, that this is what it is because of the wokeness. It's the perfect example to magnify it, because when people complain about the wokeness, say in Star Wars, it's obviously more subtle. It's much more kind of insidious in that you have to kind of read between the lines. But when you get to He-Man, He-Man is the ultimate kind of icon. It almost is the purest thing that is kind of what everything is fighting against right now. And this is my biggest issue about why I'm upset about why there isn't at least going to be one more He-Man movie, is because the thing that would have proven this point more than anything is that we would have gotten a She-Ra in it. And you would see that there wouldn't have been an ounce. There would have never
amazing.
Well, in every way, she would actually be portrayed as She-Ra. She's not going to be a doofus in any aspect. And that's why, like, it's just, like, it's so blatantly obvious what they're doing.
Well,
in a
it's
way that
funny
you can
that
try
you
to not argue it with other things, but with this case, it's just like
yeah, this is
this
really
like
obvious.
it's
Yeah.
you're making a He-Man movie made by people who hate everything about what He-Man is, and anybody who's a fan of this, we
Yeah.
hate you and we hate the product, and we're gonna make you your movie.
It's funny that you say you don't think they're going to have another He-Man movie because actually Amazon MGM has come out and said no, we're probably going to go forward with another film. Their
Oh,
metric for
you
success
know.
isn't the box office because again, this is for Amazon. It's for Prime Video. So
But this would be
yeah,
like a
it's
different. This would be a whole new like recanoning of He-Man. Like they're buying the IP is what you mean, I guess, right?
well, they own the rights right now for films in perpetuity until they, give up those rights or whatever. But no, they're planning on doing more. We probably won't get a theatrical release for the next one. The next one will probably just go straight to streaming. But maybe
But
it
would it
will.
be a sequel? I guess is
No,
what I'm
yeah,
saying.
they're planning on
It'll be a
doing it.
straight to Netflix.
They're planning on doing it with all the actors, with Travis Knight directing. Like they are fully planning. They have come out and said, "Yeah, we're probably going to do a sequel." Because again, yes, the opening weekend metrics were 55 million, and maybe that'll go up to 80 million by the time it hits streaming. But then when it hits streaming, it's going to do huge numbers on streaming as well, and that's actually what they wanted it for. So the fact that they even gave it a theatrical release is amazing. But
Oh no,
yeah,
it had to with the budget that it was made for. It had to have had
of
a
course,
theatrical
yeah, and
release.
and
But
and so I think the sequel is going to have a much smaller budget, and then
yeah,
it's also probably not likely to have a theatrical release, but they
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 really
are going
should.
to make
The,
one.
the fact that it's even going to go to Netflix, it's just begging to be
Not
like, just
Netflix,
make.
Prime.
Oh, Prime. Even if it's Prime, I'm just sort of either way.
Yeah,
I'm just sort of like just make 8 episodes and just like take
yeah,
your
yeah.
time, take your time with it, man. And like that's what it. I mean, like it was a show to begin with, and you could have just made a real like honestly one thing that people don't really talk about very much, even, and it came out like a number of years ago. But I actually found the Dark Crystal series to be really underrated. I was just sort of like,
Mm,
this is about as good. You guys did this about as good as you possibly could as a continuation from the Dark Crystal
right.
movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it
And
yet. It's on my list of things to watch, but I did hear good things about it.
yeah, I
Um,
mean, if you haven't seen the original movie in a long time, like rewatch the
yeah,
movie
yeah,
to
yeah, of
familiarize
course.
yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, and again, it's not even so that I'm sure Dark Crystal had a big budget. It probably more so it was just more the pain of like it's just even in modern day, it's a pain to make puppet things because they're unlike other, it's just unlike filming other stuff. But it was just
Right.
the fact that they were like we're doing like Jim Henson's son was like probably the main producer, and it's like we're gonna make this good to honor like Jim Henson and the old movies. Like we're not
Right.
gonna
Yeah,
we
yeah,
don't want to
yeah.
fuck this up,
Yeah, I wish
and
they
that's the
could
big
have done
thing is
that with
just
He-Man.
touring.
Really wish they could have done that with
Yeah,
He-Man.
it's again it was well again I think it was just probably like doomed from the start based on whoever the people were behind controlling that whole idea, like just the
The
idea behind that
narrative,
whole thing
yeah.
just seemed like yeah. I
No,
would have been really
it's really
interested to
weird.
have read what those older He-Man scripts were because I bet they were probably a lot better.
No, I
Um,
feel like they were worse. I feel like they probably the reason why this movie was as bad as it is because they held on to a lot of the original script. But I don't know. That's
I'm just
that's
saying,
just me.
it would have been interesting to read them because the older ones wouldn't have been at least woke. So somewhere in there, maybe some
You
like if there
think
was 8 or 9 scripts.
that?
Well, no, I mean it wouldn't make sense. No, because they've been trying to get He-Man going
For
pre
yeah,
woke
20
Hollywood.
years basically. No,
That's
you're
why
fair.
I'm saying like
Fair.
you would have actually been interesting to. I'm not saying it could have been bad in other ways. A lot of times,
Yeah.
actually, a lot of the scripts get modified not even because they're bad, but they're just sort of like, dude, this is great.
Mm.
We're not gonna put that much money into. Like now, you could do the Eternia stuff. All probably. I mean, again, even now it's 170 million, but in 2008, they're like, yeah, we're not gonna put that much
That's
money into a
probably why
He-Man
they were
movie.
planning on it being, taking
Yeah.
place on Earth.
But
Yeah,
but the funny thing is that that's why a lot of people actually say that the biggest issue not even is the quality of the movie, but just simply it was made in a time where. So basically, a lot of people basically feel that He-Man was a Gen X phenomenon,
Right.
and the period of Gen Xers having kids and taking their
Yeah.
kids to the movies, that era's kind of past. It's now millennials
They
who
made
take
it
their
too
kids to the
late.
movies.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
millennials don't
yeah.
want to see toxic men or buff strong guys and being powerful and successful. Yeah, for sure. No,
Yeah.
going back to like the Reddit thing, that was one of the other opinions, because I mentioned in my thread that I had left the theater for 10 minutes and then I came back. The first reply that I got was somebody being like, "You left the theater without watching the rest of the movie? Oh, you're a fucking idiot. Your opinion is invalidated." And I'm like, "No, you missed the part where I said I came back after 10 or 15 minutes and I did watch the rest of it. And I
Well,
don't need to see all of a movie to know that all I saw was terrible. It's like I watched an hour and a half before I left. And then I left for 15 minutes and then I came back and watched the rest of it. So, like, I'm sorry, are you trying to tell me that that 15 minutes I made was just going to radically change my overall opinion of the movie and mean it's fantastic?
I think it's only because, like, once you go online to give a review, I think he's treating you in the faux pas as if, like, you know, if an actual film critic walked out of a movie and missed it, as much as a film critic would hate a movie,
Sure.
I think he's just going about it in that aspect where
But it's
it's
such
not
a
that, like, you don't have a
stupid-
right to opinion, but he's attacking it as like a film critic review. is
That's
what he's
such
doing.
a stupid thing to
I
do,
know.
though, because you don't, if you miss 5 minutes of a movie or 10 minutes of a movie, but the rest of the parts that you did see are fucking awful, that 5 or 10 minutes isn't going to somehow elevate the rest of the film. It's more likely going to do nothing. And even if it is the best part of the film, it's not going to elevate it more than half a point anyways, right? If you
The thing
see...
is, I guess I don't walk out of movies though just because I don't know. I'm like
Sure,
for all I know,
sure, yeah,
I
yeah.
could walk out during a 10 minutes that could make that difference.
And you know what?
but,
Honestly,
yeah.
the 15 minutes that I walked out on were the best 15 minutes of the film, because when I watched it after the fact, yes, they were. Did they change my overall score? No. Fuck no. Not at all. I still hate the film. It's still terrible. It's like, imagine that the best 15 minutes happens in the opening of a film, and then you sit through shit movie for the rest of it. That actually might lower my opinion rather than boost it, because even though I saw the best part, it's like, what the fuck? How did you start so good and then end so terribly? So, like, yeah, just the idea that you have to consume all of it before you can form an opinion is stupid to me.
I had started getting to a point watching the movie where I actually started really thinking, like, oh no, is this going to be like one of those movies where they decide he's not going to become He-Man till the end? Like,
yeah.
Like that's the character arc, is he gets his power
right at the end of the movie, and you'll get to see it in the sequel. There was a part of me
almost thinking, like, oh god, they actually
could be doing that.
Just do that just to cut down on the, like, you know, cut down on the maximum amount of He-Man time.
Yeah.
Like luckily they didn't do that, but they did.
You know, the weird thing is it felt like that, though, because again, I walked out at about an hour and a half, and he hadn't really been He-Man until then. And then even when he was He-Man, so when I went back and watched the parts that I missed, it's like, okay, so he gets 15 minutes of ass kicking, but then his powers are taken away again. And not to mention that, but also going back to, like, my analogy of, like, Clark Kent and Superman, like Clark Kent being the bumbling idiot. The other thing they did is they absolutely destroyed the continuity of what makes He-Man He-Man. So the power sword. You know the character Green Lantern, like, loosely, right? Green Lantern is powered by, he has an actual lantern and his ring. Those are the sources. So the lantern recharges the ring, and the ring is what gives him the ability to use his powers while he's, you know, being a superhero. So the power sword is the same thing. The power sword is what turns He-Man into fucking He-Man. Without the power sword, he cannot become He-Man. And in the cartoons, that actually happens a few times, where he loses the sword and he can't transform. And he's like, fuck, what am I gonna do? How can I save the day? And the fact that they actually just destroyed that and they go, oh no, Skeletor just shatters the power sword, but it's fine because you're the vessel, Adam. You're the important thing, not that sword. I was like, what the actual fuck? Are you kidding me? Like,
it's like the more I think about it, it would have been a way better take to do Adam is like if you're, and again, it's like this would have also worked well if you're trying to comment on toxic masculinity, is actually make him like a toxic male where he's kind of like chauvinistic and like almost kind of like Ron Burgundy, where he's like the alpha male, but he's also kind of not aware that he's a bit of a dick and stuff like that. And then when he becomes He-Man, he kind of learns how to like not be like a dick, basically. But he's always this kind of like strong leader type, because that is kind of what, like, that's the thing, is like Adam he wasn't super like the super strong He-Man, but he wasn't this like insecure, wimpy, unsure of himself guy. He was still a masculine man.
And it's funny that you say that, because I feel like they did that with the rest of the characters. Adam's father, King Randor, is a complete fucking prick. He doesn't acknowledge his son. King Randor is always portrayed as like a benevolent king. He's supposed to be this loving and supportive and kind father, and he totally adores his son and his wife and his family, and they make him into a total prick in the opening of the movie. He's like, oh, you're a weakling, kid, and not only are you a weakling, but I'm personally gonna beat you up in front of everybody to embarrass you, and then I'm going to walk away and not even look back and like acknowledge that I did what I did. Like fucking Duncan is standing there, Man-at-Arms is standing there going like, just wait, son, he's going to turn around. And when he does, he's going to see you being like, a poser, basically. You're going to pretend that you're a tough guy and it's okay and it didn't hurt you. And then the dad walks away and he doesn't even look back. And so like all of the side characters were like making fun of toxic masculinity and how all they cared about was being strong and powerful and confident and courageous. And like Duncan becomes drunken because he failed as a man. So I'm going to spend the next 15 years in a drunken stupor lying in a prison while my daughter somehow is allowed to come and go as she pleases. Like, what the fuck? And she becomes a powerful woman. He even literally says the line to her, you became the man that I always wanted to be. And she's like, what? What are you fucking talking about, Dad? Like, that, you're right, is total woke bullshit and like a crazy way for them to make fun of toxic masculinity without actually putting it on Adam. Whereas Adam's like the weak character and the soft one and the one who goes and becomes an HR worker and learns about empathy, and then the sorceress highlights the fact that that's why I chose you, because you're not a toxic male, you're empathetic and you care about people, and so that's why you're the vessel and you're the powerful one, and it's got nothing to do with this sort. Oh fuck, it was so awful. Oh my god, like I hate it so much in hindsight.
We're commenting on, right? It's like, I think they're going to be much more exposed, like, like 40 years from now, when there's been like so many more multiple superhero and adaptations and reboots. People are going to start just commenting and like studying like, yeah, man. And then of course there's the like, the 2020s He-Man. Where it's like, you know what I mean? Where they're going to just be like, it's such a 2020s. Like, look at it. It's just dripping in 2020s ideology. And they're going to like break it down like in every way. In the way that just like the 80s movie is completely its own thing, and later movies will come like again like the woke thing, like you can only make these horrible woke movies for so long until eventually the pendulum swings back. Swings the complete opposite way, right?
Yeah.
And
well,
and so I'm just gonna be happier when that, like, that's what I mean, is like probably within your lifetime you might be quite old, but you're like gonna finally be like maybe you'll be like deathbed, you'll be like, it finally happened.
I get a He-Man movie that I like. Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, but it's like, that's the thing, is I think there will come a time where people will be like, we actually know just the best thing to do is to adapt everything with the love and care it deserves. That's the best way you'll get movies.
The funniest thing too is it's not like anybody is against them saying toxic masculinity is bad. We all fucking know toxic masculinity is bad, but you don't have to try and say that all masculinity is toxic masculinity. It's like, it's okay to be a man. It's okay to be strong and want to protect people and, you know, to be courageous and to be self-sacrificing. Those are actually all good aspects of masculinity. They're not the toxic ones. So, like, the idea that you have to hide this tear down of toxic masculinity and you can't just confront it directly, like, as you say, it probably would have been more interesting had they wanted this to be the main message. It would have been more interesting to have him being this toxic male, and then he gets the power of the sword and it opens his eyes to the power of the universe, and he's like, holy fuck, there's more than just me, there's more than just, you know, this focus on power and strength, and it kind of calms him down and tames him a little bit. That would have at least been somewhat interesting.
It would have been like legitimately funny. Like, that would have been so much more appealing. And like, again, you didn't have to have the movie riddled with jokes, but that adds like an element where, again, it's that element where you just kind of watch the movie and you're like, oh, that's kind of not necessarily, it doesn't have to even be like genius, but you're just sort of like, this is a new approach that still celebrates the movie, kind of doing something new while being self-aware. And again, it's like, more than anything else, it's just, I know when I'm being condescended by and being given something by somebody who more or less hates me and the material that you've made. And that's the number one thing, really. But I almost wonder if, like, so much of this movie could have been saved by simply taking out all of the Earth stuff, which I believe was only there to save a degree of money from like the special effects. And then there also might have been a bit of market research where they're like, certain people just don't like fantasy movies. So if we have a little bit of realism there in the trailers, it might attract certain people who otherwise won't come to see this movie. It's like that kind of garbage.
Totally.
But if they just took out all of the Earth stuff and instead used all of that extra space to focus early in the movie, to just have like a slower paced scenario where you just get to know the characters more.
Establish the characters, make them feel like real people, but also not make your main hero into a complete fucking buffoon. That's the part that just drove me nuts, is I'm like, he's a complete idiot, and he's non-stop an idiot too. It's like literally the end of the film. Everybody knows his secret identity. That's the other thing, the Clark Kent Superman analogy. Imagine that Clark Kent becomes the main persona, but also everybody knows that he's Superman. It's like, what the fuck? But even at the end of the movie, everybody knows his secret identity, and he's still running off to go and hide before he transforms, and they're openly mocking him for it. And it's like, so basically what you wanted to do was create this story arc where your hero's a complete fucking idiot for the entirety of the movie, and he doesn't ever improve. He doesn't get smarter. He doesn't have any kind of evolution as a character. He's just consistently a fucking moron. Wow, what a brilliant story arc this is. Like, oh my god.
Fuck, what was I gonna... I wonder if that's another reason why they had to include Earth, because it's the only way you could have made him that much of a doofus. It's like, you know what I mean? He got like America-fied. He's all like, guys. But maybe, you know, like, if he just stayed in Eternia, that persona would just have made you just couldn't.
It wouldn't have made
that,
sense.
right?
You're right. Yeah.
He would have like, even if it was a scenario where he's kind of banished, like, and that's the problem, is you could have still had it that he was banished from, he runs off from Eternia, he like ends out in the outskirts. Maybe like a Yoda type character takes him in and teaches him like basics, you know, and he like works out. And then he kind of comes back, but he's more just sort of like my old home, but like I don't really... Yeah. And you could still do the whole...
I mean, there could have been a million different ways that they could have done that and still worked. Yeah. No, it's really mind-blowing to me the way they chose that. And I think the other thing, maybe a slightly hidden agenda again, is maybe they wanted him to get the best parts of his personality from Earth it's like, oh, we're humans. We are, more valuable than Eternians. So we have to make sure that he gets his morals from the HR department. It's like, what the fuck? And I mean, I do love that they were kind of mocking and making fun of the HR culture. Like, I worked for a short while at a telecom company that was like that, where they were super like PC, and it really felt quite accurate to the type of culture that you get in a corporation like that. I kind of did like that they were mocking that, but yeah, I don't know. But then they also weren't mocking it. It's almost like they were mocking it unintentionally, because that's where he got all of his good morals from, was from the HR team from his time on Earth.
Well, what's crazy too is it's like, they don't go into anything about like what kind of a family adopted him, or was he just in an orphanage until his
Totally.
teens? Like,
Yeah. He's literally a 15-year-old kid.
where he's just now like an HR guy. And I also thought it was weird where, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong on this point, but like it also just seemed like HR departments are like known to be almost always predominantly women who are usually in the HR departments. It's not even very often, let alone a guy who's like a young, buff, muscular dude. Like, it's almost like that might have been.
Well, that's why he was getting in trouble all the time.
Of everything that, like, if anything, he's the guy who usually gets reported to.
Exactly. HR, yeah. Well, and that's, I think he worked on the HR team, but maybe not directly in the, anyways. Oh my God. Like, no, and the more you think about it, the more that Earth sequence makes absolutely no fucking sense. Like, he was a 15-year-old boy, he falls into a lake, and then suddenly he's now 25. No, he was a 10-year-old boy. He was 10 because it was 15 years that he was on Earth, and he's 25 when he comes back. What the actual fuck? He has no parents, he has nothing.
It's just, and that's what I mean. It's like there's just so much lazy writing where that's the stuff that makes me go. That's the reason why it takes so long for me to write my scripts, because that shit like bothers me. Sometimes there's certain things where I could be like, there are certain times where, and it's just, I think it takes like a certain degree of intelligence where you're like, no, that like some things truly don't matter. You're like, certain things don't always need to be answered, but there's other things where you're like, no, there has to be.
You have to have the basics
even if it's
there.
Something where even if you jumped to 25 and there's like, sometimes it can get boiled down to a couple lines of dialogue between him and his roommate, where you're like, okay, you know what, that's kind of lame, but boom, like they explained it all in those 2 sentences. You figured out.
But no, they just skip over it entirely. Oh God. Oh my God. No, and that's where I was so mind blown that everybody's liking this film, because I'm like, as a fanboy, there's nothing to like. Other than the visuals, there's literally nothing to like as a fanboy. And then as somebody who doesn't know anything about the IP, there's nothing to like. The story is fucking atrocious. It goes nowhere.
You know what I was... The whole time I was watching the movie, the only thing I was thinking, and this was like almost immediately, almost like from like the movie the second started, I was like, this is one of those movies that's like gonna be a disappointment. But if anybody was like on some like legit drugs watching that movie, it could be maybe one of the greatest movie experiences of all time. If you're like under the substance of something, like there was an element that this is a movie meant for people like tripping on drugs, which is again why I think even people on drugs would be like, why are they on Earth now? Why are they on this ugly gray planet? Get me back to Eternia.
Yeah, you must be under the influence of some substance to like this film. Yeah. No, and then it's just reminding me of the other things that I really didn't like. So then they highlight the fact that he's empathy. He's the definition of empathy and caring, and in this world of toxic masculinity, because that's why the sorceress picked him. And so near the end of the movie, he's like, okay, Skeletor, I don't really want to beat you up. I'm going to give you a chance to try and be a good guy. I know that you're a bad guy. You're the villain of this story, but I'm going to give you a 40-second spiel of why you should just stop being bad, mister. And then Skeletor goes, ha ha ha, I'm bad and I like it. And then He-Man's like, okay, now I'm going to just beat you to death with my bare fucking hands. What? Like, Skeletor in the cartoon series, He always runs away and comes back to fight He-Man another day because He-Man's nice.
That's what I mean. Like,
because he won't kill him.
That's why it's annoying, because it's like some references, like there would be certain things like the Four Non-Blondes song.
Yeah.
They're like, we got to put that in the soundtrack. It's like sometimes you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like they kind of know their material.
Yeah.
But then at other times I'm like, how do you miss out on all of like those other memes? Like, because again, you don't have to even do like, he doesn't have to run away being like, "Meh." But even if he just ran away, just even in a dramatic way,
Exactly.
you would still kind of be like, you might just be like, hey, like, you know, like they're kind of they're doing some stuff that, you know what I would have loved to have done, because it's another little meme. It's the one where I think Skeletor, he like goes through a mirror and then he puts his fist, he like sticks his, like he goes through the mirror and then his fist comes out and then he just smashes the mirror. And it's just, I don't know, it's just like a weird dramatic exit. I don't know what episode it's on.
I don't think I've ever seen that, but yeah.
Oh, okay, it was just like sort of like a funny little, like, you know, and I'm sure whatever the meme was,
yeah,
it was probably just something related to like, oh, like when I make an exit, like this is how I do it or something. But just
right.
like things like that, you know, like, again, going back to the homoerotic thing, I'm sure a lot of fans would have hated it, but like, you know, what if at the end, you know, Skeletor's like, all right, truce, let's kiss and make up, and he just like grabs He-Man and like plants a kiss on him, but it's a Skeletor kiss, so it's like, you know, it's like hurting his face, it's like killing He-Man, and then he has to like push away, and then you're like, oh, maybe Skeletor's a little gay for He-Man.
Well, I'm
wanting to kill him.
I'm kind of glad that you're not in charge of the IP, because
you know what, maybe,
I would not have wanted to see that.
Maybe this is the one time we actually should have gotten Joel Schumacher to direct Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, totally. He could have handled the camp in the right way.
You know who probably would have done a great Masters of the Universe? He just doesn't respect the material enough to care, like, because he can do whatever. But like, if James Cameron did Masters of the Universe, like the way he's kind of doing his Avatar movies, but he's like, I'm gonna do He-Man, but I'm gonna do it good.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Cameron, to be honest. Like, not in recent years, anyways. Old Cameron, it's the same as Spielberg to me. Like, old Cameron, great. Yeah. New Cameron, not so much. Well, I think he's kind of lost it.
The problem with New Cameron is just that he's putting all of his energy into a franchise that no one's really all that interested in. But
and yet he's still making billions.
He's just putting his energy in the wrong thing.
He's still making billions though. So, you know, go figure. It's working somehow.
Well, that also probably counts for his complete body of work, right? Like he's probably still making.
No, I just mean Avatar. Yeah. Avatar 1 and 2 have both grossed more than $1 billion at the box office, and same. I know Fire and Ash or whatever it was called didn't do as well. Let's see.
I think he said he actually might be. He might be ending the Avatar thing prematurely.
Yeah, Fire and Ash made 1.4 billion. So nope, he's not ended anything early. It's a fucking license to print money. I mean, personally,
the studio actually calls it Avatar. Fire his ass.
Yeah, totally. No, I actually I didn't like the first Avatar movie, and I actually have liked it for 2 and 3. So. I'm okay if he continues. So to be fair, Cameron, like, I guess, is getting a little better. But
well, okay, so here's the thing: is when did the first Avatar come out? Was it like 2007?
2012, 2010? Yeah, I don't know.
For some reason, I thought it might have been even older, possibly. But
yeah, maybe. Of course, you get Google telling you the wrong things. Yeah, 2009 was the first one. And then I guess 2019 was the second one because it was like a decade
in some ways,
later.
like I feel like Avatar might have, in a weird way, almost been really like the real beginning of movies don't really have to really be movies. They just have to be rides.
A roller coaster ride for sure. Yeah. It's definitely a visual, and that's the only reason Avatar does well is because it's visually fucking striking.
That was the thing. It was two things. It was you were kind of seeing this new. World building that you hadn't seen before, which was okay, but what it really was it was also James Cameron spent a long time redesigning 3D in general, and I think it was that combination where people are like, oh, I haven't seen 3D on this level before with this level of graphics, and that's why it's like when you later like talk to people who saw Avatar but not in theaters and in 3D, they were just kind of like, it was okay.
No, I didn't watch Avatar in 3D because I can't do 3D movies. They just annoy me and I can't focus properly. So no, I watched Avatar in straight up 2D even back in 2009, and I was like, yeah, it's lame. It's like Fern Gully, but not as good.
Yeah,
So
it's a CGI cartoon
yeah,
of a story that's been kind of redone many times. Like
yeah, yeah.
the characters are just very one dimensional. Like that's one of my problems is that uh like James Cameron, he's a technical and effects director. I think he just tries to get good actors because he's kind of like, you're sort of on your own. I can't.
Mm. Can't give you
Like
much direction.
he's not that great at dialogue, and like he's
Yeah.
not that great at kind of like character, like just character dynamics, and that it's kind of more like, oh, you're gonna see a big crazy thing in a bit.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. Well, he's like Michael Bay, right? Things go boom. It looks cool. Yay.
well, he's like, but I would actually give him the credit that I actually think he's on a bit of a level above of Michael Bay, but
Yeah, sure.
I would almost, I'd almost maybe say he's like the thinking man's Michael Bay.
Mm.
I will say, you know what, his movie that probably has the best character dynamics, where you're like, oh, he's actually like written some interesting characters and scenes, besides just the spectacle, is actually The Abyss.
Yeah, The Abyss is
Like
fantastic.
there's actually some good drama in that movie,
Yeah,
despite
yeah,
like
yeah.
most of it actually is a submarine drama movie with a little bit of CGI and aliens in it. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. True Lies is another one of my favorite Cameron movies, but
Oh man, what I love about True Lies is basically you got to see like what because the James Bond franchise, they're very particular with who they're kind of known for not bringing in top-notch directors. Spielberg said that for ages.
mm,
Spielberg's
mm,
like, you guys never let me make a Bond that now if you ask me, I'd just say no. But
yeah,
it's also the reason why we got Indiana Jones, and
yeah.
it's the reason we got True Lies is like
Cameron wanted
True
to do
Lies is
Bond.
basically what
Yeah.
True Lies is like. Yeah, it's like James Bond, and James Cameron's like, "Fuck you! I'm gonna make my James Bond Arnold Schwarzenegger. Go fuck yourself."
Yeah. All right. Well,
uh,
anyways, I think I'm tired and I need to go get some food, so I think we can
yeah,
call
yeah,
it a
buddy.
wrap. And hopefully,
Yeah,
the audio doesn't bork too much, and maybe we can still use this. But it was
yeah.
fun.
There might be a thing later on we can like eventually we'll put this into an AI machine and it'll correct
Like
it
clean
all.
it
And
all. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
We'll see.
Anyways, buddy, yeah. But a good chat. Yeah, we'll talk again later.
Okay. See you, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Bye.
See you, buddy.